Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
Right, so listen, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. He's Shep, I'm Sean. Hi. I didn't watch football last Sunday.
Come
I
on.
didn't. No,
Come
Shep,
on.
I think I told you that. Not yesterday, last week. I did not watch last week. The day after. I didn't watch. I was a big baby. I watched yesterday. All the people out there saying you're not going to watch the Super Bowl, knock it off. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Can we drop that? Let's just drop that right now, Shep. You're going to watch the Super Bowl. You know you are. And let's just get over it. We're going to be okay. You're going to watch the Super Bowl.
Right.
Okay, cool. How you doing, buddy?
But you will watch it differently. Because at least for me, I'm watching the games yesterday. How could the Lions done against the Eagles? What was Washington doing less effectively?
Do you like that? Good feedback. It's pretty good feedback. Yeah, it's a good song too, right?
What was Washington doing less effectively than what they were doing against Detroit? And that's I couldn't help but watch it that way. And I think, the turnover is obviously the biggest deal. How do you feel about Kansas City being back? That's what's trending. That's what everybody says, So look,
can I answer those questions one by one?
Go.
The first question, how did you feel about Washington? Honestly, I sat there and said to myself, how the hell did we lose to these guys? That was the first question. Okay. Yep. The second question that you asked, how would we do against Philly? Philly would have punked us. They would.
Well, and yesterday, if they played like they did yesterday, they would have punked it for sure.
Yep. And then the third question, I cannot stress enough how much respect I have for Patrick Mahomes. He's on a level by himself. We can talk about the calls that go their way. We can have that conversation. But somebody used this quote. Flannel Sam from Woodward Sports used this quote. And Shep, I always like to give other people credit. I always say, and you've probably heard me say it, I love your line, and I attribute it to you all the time. Okay, the word great is used too much. You said that probably 15, 20 years ago. I quote all the time, and I always give you full credit. As somebody who's had lines and bits stolen from them, I always like to attribute. Sam said Patrick Mahomes is one of one, and he's 100% right. There's Patrick Mahomes and there's everybody else. That's just the way it is.
In the league right now, not all the time.
Yes, in the league right now. Yep.
I don't disagree with that. Look, I was on an island with this, and I'm not saying he deserved it. So please don't take it out of context. I couldn't understand how a team that was en route to 15 wins, that their best player wasn't in the discussion for MVP.
Yep.
I'm just asking him to be in the discussion because he wasn't mentioned. It was Barkley, it was Allen, it was Jackson. For a period, it was Goff. And obviously it was Burrow because of the sick numbers, the video game-like numbers that he put up. It was almost like it was LSU national championship year all over again. But I thought, look, Patrick Mahomes, I get it that they're winning by the slimmest of margins, but give me all the guys on offense that you'd have to have besides Travis Kelce, right? Because he lost a lot of guys at the beginning. He's been unbelievable. And I don't have anything against him. I like him. And I like Andy Reid a lot. You can have Kelce as far as I'm concerned. But I think, this is where, Sean, I think the media and sometimes overexposure of certain athletes, always on commercials and things of that nature, make it tough for people to swallow.
A couple comments. Good evening, guys, from Tom in London, Ontario. Wings just scored to tie the game at 2. That's nice after getting down. Nick said, what are the odds of KC winning 17 straight games by one score? It's insane. Like, this is another one of those both things can be true conversation, Shep. Are they the benefactor of a lot of calls? Yeah. I watch them each and every week because they're on TV each and every week, and it never fails to amaze me. I'm not being funny. I'm also not taking anything away from them. And they're obviously doing something right. if they're doing what Nick just said. It is incredible. I don't think enough is being said about it. And in our lifetimes, Shep, Bart Starr couldn't do it. Greasy couldn't do it. Bradshaw couldn't do it 2 different times. Montana, Aikman, all these greats. Patrick Mahomes is this close to doing something that nobody else has done before, and that's insane to me.
Yeah, Bart Starr did it, but he didn't do it in the Super Bowl era. So the last 2 championships for the Packers, or the last championship for the Packers, and then the first 2 Super Bowls. So maybe you want to put an asterisk, but you're right. I mean, of all the great players, and I would argue today it's just if not more difficult to do it because, for example, it's funny how last year they win 11 games. They were not good enough, even though they won the AFC West. They still weren't good enough. They were a big letdown. They want to win the Super Bowl. This year, people are finding, well, they don't win by enough. I mean, like that mattered. Like style points should never matter, right? I suppose if you're trying to break down who's going to win next week, you could use that as a reference point. I'm amazed at the consistency, but the high level of consistency that they have, and that they're similar to the Lions, at least from this year. They don't make excuses. Hey, we lost this guy. We lost our best wide receiver. You move on. You lost, Isaac Pacheco. You move on. You got to give them a ton of credit. You may not like them, and that's fine. But you and I haven't liked a lot of teams over our lifetime. You still got to tip the cat to them, don't you? I think so.
Can I tell you somebody else I don't like? I don't like Tony Romo. I did at one point in time, but I don't like Tony Romo. Okay, I did it first because it was different, and then I got tired of it very quickly. But he brought up something late in the game, and I had to laugh because sometimes it's that stupid pirouette that Kelsey does. Everybody knows he's going to do it. We've watched Kelsey his whole career, catches a pass and then does that pirouette and ends up picking 15, 20 yards more. When Romo said that, I laughed out loud. Like, it's coming. You know for a fact it's coming, and yet the guy still does it every single game. It is insane to me, and it's like the Chiefs to me. That's a snapshot of the Chiefs. You know what they're going to do. You know they're going to hang around. They don't blow teams out too much anymore, but in the end, they're going to find a way to make a play on offense and, to a point that Austin just brought up, on defense as well. It is fascinating to me. It really is.
Here's the other thing what you're going to get out of Travis Kelce. Some type of douchebag move. Okay, so Patrick Mahomes runs for a touchdown. Kelsey's got to go in there and do the little gyration stuff and then flop after somebody actually goes face mask with him. He's a big reason, along with, I think, the national media. Like, I think most football fans right now, maybe not when it first started, Sean, but right now are going, like, I give a crap about seeing Taylor Swift in a private box. I don't care. People have had enough of the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, but more importantly, the Travis Kelce theatrics that make him look like, a frat boy D-bag. They're tired of it.
Yeah. Austin said Casey gets calls and Mahomes has been embellishing lately, but no one talks about their defense, which in my opinion is supremely overrated over this run they've had. You've got to respect them. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Underrated. Dude, Austin, they make plays when they have to. It's almost like the offense. It's like, hey, guys, we got to make a play. The offense keeps making plays. We got to find a way to make a play. It's fascinating to me to watch this dynamic, Shep. There's something, and I've heard people say this is the Super Bowl nobody wants to watch. Are you nuts? I think this is going to be a huge Super Bowl ratings bonanza. I really do.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be, but I want to watch it because it's 2 really good football teams. I mean, I have no problem with that situation. The other thing is, you mentioned the defense, or Austin brings up the defense. Steve Spagnuolo, what a job he's done. The Josh Allen 4th down, the look that he originally gave, he thought they were going, a certain defense, and then Spagnuolo springs it on him. I think he's the only assistant coach in history to have 4 Super Bowl rings. Is that right? I believe so. And he's got a legitimate shot at a 5th. So give him a ton of credit. Just because a guy, and he was a head coach for a period of time, just because a guy fails as a head coach doesn't mean he can't go back and be a really important coordinator. And we'll probably see that again coming up. I mean, look at some of the things that are going on right now with Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
He couldn't make it as a head coach, really. Look at how good he's been with Washington as a play caller. Let's see if it happens with Liam Cohen. A really good play caller in Tampa, which, I could go off on a different tangent. How come Baker Mayfield's not involved in the MVP talk, considering how good his numbers were this year? But Liam Cohen and now Jacksonville head coach. If he fails as Jacksonville's head coach, he's going to be a coordinator somewhere. Ben Johnson fails as a head coach, he'll be a coordinator again real soon, don't you think?
Yeah, no question in my mind. That's the way it is. Very quickly before we get back to your comments, let me tell you about Legacy Partners. Did you know thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and help save you money at the same time. Chances are, and this is what happened to us, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. Enter Legacy Partners. What are you waiting for? Give them a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. It's kind of funny. I don't know if people know this. There's another team playing in the Super Bowl, and I want to get your thoughts on that other team playing in the Super Bowl. But Tom said it will be something to see KC win 3 in a row as we've never had it in the Super Bowl era. Romo asking if Buffalo is going to go for it on 4th down with 2 minutes left. That was
what they go for it on 6 times, right?
Yeah,
6 times in the report.
Todd said, I'd like to bundle Ruski them all into retirement, but knowing the NFL, they'll be in the booth for the next 30 years. It's funny when you say the bundle Ruski thing. We have to ask ourselves, does Andy Reid retire? There was a lot of talk he was going to do it last year, if you remember. He's 66. There was a whole bunch of speculation a year ago he was going to retire. He just did what no other coach has done. Does he walk away from this, Shep? He's going to be 67 in a few months. Does he walk away from this?
I don't know the man. It seems like he's still having fun, and I think he's one of those guys who just feels like he's a lifer. You and I have been around plenty of people like that where you say, just go off and retire. You've got enough money. You've accomplished all you could hope to accomplish in a professional career. Why not just retire? Because it's who they are. It's the fabric of their being. They can't help it. So I think he's kind of like that. I'm not saying he'll coach until he's 80. But they've said that about him for the last couple of years. I think he's still having fun, man. And when you've got a franchise quarterback, why would you leave when you got a chance to do something that not many coaches have ever done? He's going to coach in his 6th Super Bowl. He's tied with Don Shula. I'm not saying he's going to catch Bill Belichick, but he's tied with Don Shula for second most all time. He's got a chance to keep climbing those ladders. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back.
Nick said, I hope Philly wins on a controversial call. Tim up in lovely Hancock in the UP. Going into the game yesterday, the Chiefs were 6-5 with that head official. After the Texans game, they're 7-0 with that head official. Austin said, I agree with you. The game itself might be great, but people hate the fan bases and drama of these two. Everyone always wants an underdog or a darling, myself included. I think when the playoffs started, most people wanted to see Buffalo, Detroit that I've seen in forums, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
But can we also take a step back and talk about that other team that's in the Super Bowl? Props to Nick Sirianni. Words that I never thought would come out of my mouth. I might add. Props to Nick Sirianni, Shep, because this is a guy that we watched his team melt down in real time. Literally,
last year. Yeah.
A year ago. I mean, just absolutely every week seemingly worse than the other week. And when the obligatory what's wrong with Philly question started, they all fell on Nick Sirianni's doorstep. And for him to get them back from the brink of absolute disaster to where they are right now, man, nothing but respect for you under those circumstances.
100%. Remember, they started 10-0, in case people forgot last year. They started 10-0, right? And that's when things started to fall apart. Howie Roseman, their GM, you got to give him a lot of credit because of the ability to swing trades to get A.J. Brown, get Saquon Barkley, do what he's been able to do. Mad props to them. I think I was watching this game yesterday. I'm thinking to myself, I think Philadelphia's offensive line is the best in football. And I've been saying that about the Lions' offensive line. I think it might be Phillies. I mean, that was the debate, right? Those two teams, they manhandled Washington, and Washington did the direct opposite to Detroit. So I'm going to give them the props in that regard, too.
Nobody wants to hear it. I think that's a very, very fair assessment, Shep. And I think that's one of the areas I don't want to do it, but I've probably done, Shep, no less than 228 mock drafts in the past week. I'm not going to lie. The mock draft simulator. I would say if you took the over 228, you'd probably win that bet. But you know what? I think another inside offensive line, interior offensive lineman is something. Obviously, edge, defensive line, yes. But let's face it, down the stretch, a couple of our key cogs didn't look like themselves. Now we have to figure out, is it age? Were there other things, et cetera, et cetera? But some guys that we weren't used to seeing being blown up were blown up down the stretch. And, I don't know what the thing is, but honestly, Shep, I think an interior offensive lineman is a need in this draft. I really do.
Yeah, I was going to say tackle because of Taylor Decker.
You could do that.
I like the fact that Kevin Zeitler wants to come back and that Brad Holmes says he'd like to bring him back. I like that Brad Holmes wants to bring Carlton Davis back. That's comforting. It's comforting me to know that Frank Ragnow says that he feels as healthy as he's ever felt. If that were the case, you would have 4 of the starting 5. I'm not sure about Graham Glasgow. I think line is where I would hope they would go, depending on their draft board, because I'm not a big believer in drafting for need. I think you draft for best player available. But if that best player is a lineman on either side of the ball, I hope that they stockpile quite a few of them. I don't care if they take one damn player from a secondary or on the offensive side of the ball, wide receiver or anything. I really don't care. You can pick up wide receivers. You can pick up third wide receivers anyway. Okay. I remember before the season began, Sean, maybe you and I were even talking, what are they going to do about their third wide receiver? And I was like, what are they going to do about number 2? What are they doing about their number 2 receiver? That's the first question. The third wide receiver you can find. All right. I'm hoping that this team is able to shore up a little bit more on both sides of in the trenches, and I think that'll make them even that much more potent.
And that's, to me, Shep, that's the thing about this team, and I got to be honest with you, I'm actually surprised at how many people in the fan base are, Shep, they're still close, okay? And you still have Brad Holmes, and we talked about this last week. That doesn't mean that they can't use an upgrade here. I mean, look, like edge, absolutely. I want an edge. And where they're picking, I think there are potentially 3 different guys that would fit what they're looking for and really be a benefit to a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, who really took a big step this past year before the tragic injury and everything, Shep. I say it all the time. Tony Dungy was right 15 years ago. The National Football League is, what can your quarterback do to the opposition, and how can you put pressure and really make the life miserable of the opposition's quarterback? And a great way to do that is a ferocious pass rush.
Is one of those guys Jack Sawyer that you were talking about?
I think he's up there. I think he's in that group. Oh yeah. Absolutely. The kid from Marshall the kid from Marshall and the kid from A&M, who will probably go before 28. But, they're in that general area. As well as I do, where we think these guys are ranked on January 27th will change dramatically after the Underwear Olympics. We'll start to find out what teams really think about them, as opposed to what losers like me think about these guys and when they make their big boards and all that stuff. But the important thing is what the people making these picks think. Make no mistake about that.
Well, yes, but I also think it's really important to see where Brad Holmes is going with certain contracts, because I think that'll tell you an awful lot on where they go in free agency. Like, if Marcus Davenport should not be brought back, right? See you later.
Yep.
What are you going to do with Zadarius Smith? What are you going to do with Carlton Davis? What are you doing with Kevin Zeitler? There's a lot of questions that still need to be asked. And as much as you like depth and as much as you like certain experience, how much are you willing to pay for that experience compared to those young guys? How many of those young guys can come in fill that void right away, and then where are you going to go to kind of shift some of those guys around if Taylor Decker is not necessarily a left tackle? Let's say you just happen to draft one of the best offensive tackles in the league. Could a guy like Taylor Decker move inside? Could he move to left guard? I don't know the answer to that.
Yep.
You know, Hank Fraley would know that a lot better than I would. It's not an easy transition. I hope people realize that's not necessarily, well, I'll play strong side and you play weak side, and then we can just switch as a defensive back. That's not how it works.
Let me very quickly tell you about my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. If you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those handsome lads right there. Two brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are, and that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help navigate you through the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, you're getting ready to sell a company, you're already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world is a complex one, and if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. That's Mike Husak on the left, Jeff Husak on the right, the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574. Check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Austin, this is uncharted waters in the draft for Lions fans. We've never been relevant contenders long enough to maintain success. And if you look at the other teams, the blueprint from and organizations, they quietly draft front seven or OL and reload the trenches. Shep, how do you argue with that? I know people like shiny things, but as far as I'm concerned, trench, that's the way it should be.
They did that a little bit in the last draft, and you and I both agree you can't judge those drafts yet.
Not yet.
But first blush is it's not as strong as they've had in the past. Mm-hmm. So they have done that a little bit. Soderblom scored, so it's 3-2 wings. They've scored 3 in a row after trailing 2-0. But those are the things that you gotta look at, and obviously they're evaluating this all the time. I don't disagree with it. I've always been a guy who loves going out and drafting linemen. Like my favorite draft this year early on was the Steelers draft, because they draft Zach Frazier. They get Peyton Wilson, two tough dudes who are going to play every single freaking down for you. And both of them were outstanding in Pittsburgh this year. So I like front seven guys on defense. I like trenches first on offense. You can have all the sexy picks you want. I want to be able to protect the quarterback, man. So I'm with you 100% on that, baby.
Tom added 3-2 wings. By the way, what are your thoughts on Elmer? I'm intrigued. Just off the top of your head, I don't know how much you watch him. I'll go first. I think he's a guy. I like his height. I think there are advantages to his reach. There's no doubt about that. But I think in typical, I hate to say this, Red Wing fashion, I think there are a lot of people out there putting him on a pedestal that maybe he doesn't belong. I think he's a guy. What makes him exceptional is that reach. How's that?
When you say he's just a guy, I
think he's a piece. I don't think that there's. I don't think there's a high ceiling.
He's not a top 6 forward.
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't.
Right. Do you think that Edmondson and Sider are top 4 pairings, top 2 pairings?
Yes.
So do I. And that's more important to me, quite honestly, than just about anything else.
Yep.
Although they do need scorers.
I don't think that Sider will be the Norris Trophy winner that many envisioned him to be. I don't think he's that. But is a pairing? Absolutely. That's a damn good pairing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Same here. Sort of. I agree with you. I mean, I think he's a bottom 6 forward. I think Detroit has probably too many of those with Kopp and Comfer and some of the others that they've got strolling out there. Valeno's been a real disappointment for me anyway. That's a first-round pick. 100%. Last pick in the first round, but it's still a first-round pick, and he has not been able to climb above the third line. And I think that's a problem, So, yeah, I would like to see them eventually hit on a guy like Raymond, but, somebody else who's going to push for that top 6. When you're without Kane, like they're out tonight, what's the fill-in? We talk about depth with the Lions, but where's the fill-in for the Red Wings. It's hard to find that guy, right? It's hard to elevate your third line guy. There's a massive drop off for this team. For me, it's a little frustrating to see some of the first round guys not be more impactful.
I agree.
Rasmussen's another one, right?
Oh, 100%. Shep, I'll say this, though. This was a huge stretch leading up to the Four Nations. This was a huge stretch. I mean, really starting with the Montreal game. They had a fantastic first period in that game, won that game. They knocked off Tampa. They have the 3-2 lead on LA, which I think is a very quietly good team, especially in the back end. I like what the Kings have on their back end.
They're fourth in the league in goals against. Yeah.
This is a huge stretch of games. And mind you, they have to take that West Coast swing before February 8th. And so far,
right,
Wings are 2-0 and they're winning here tonight. So
last week we talked just a little bit about this, and you said, let's see what happens this week.
Yep.
So you were anxious to see what awaited them and how they were going to handle it, and off to a decent start with it.
Nick asked the question about the Lions. I'm intrigued to hear your answer. What's our window, the Lions window? 2 more seasons, 3 more seasons? When you look at what they have, and we can't talk about what we don't know they're going to add, but with what they have right now and with Brad Holmes being the general manager, Shep, how wide is this window right now in your mind?
Well, you're probably talking to the wrong guy because I don't buy into windows.
Okay.
Right? Because I think it's been proven time and time again in various sports with various teams that those windows really don't exist. I mean, look, how many people thought the Patriots window would be that was a garage door.
It's
right?
incredible.
Right. Green Bay with Favre and Rodgers. The door was pretty wide open for a long period of time. Dallas, for the most part, during the Staubach days and the Aikman days, right? Pretty wide open. So I think we get caught up in little phrases in sports, and we think, well, this is the window of opportunity. If you believe in Brad Holmes and you believe in Dan Campbell and that they continue to coach up, draft, and nurture talent, then why should there be any closing of that window? Unless you believe that a guy like Jared Goff only has so many years left on the tires and they don't have their quarterback of the future yet, which is probably true. Otherwise, that backup quarterback of the future would have played in an emergency snap situation instead of the guy who just led a high school football team in Florida to a state championship. So I get that. So if that's what you're talking about, I would probably say 3 years, probably 3 years. And I say that with reverence with Penny. Penny Sewell's still young. Amon-Ra St. Brown is young. Sam Laporta is still young. Jamison Williams is young. Gibbs is young. Frank Ragnow's in his 7th year. All right. Hutchinson is young. Terrion Arnold is young. The safeties are young. Campbell's young. This team is not an old football team. Are they going to be able to keep them all together? I don't know. But this is not an old – Aleem McNeil is not an old guy. These guys, their key core guys outside of quarterback are very young. So I don't look at it as a window being short. They will have to make some type of move to bring in a signal caller to back up Jared Goff if he gets – not if he gets hurt. Obviously they would. But they're going to have to find a solution to the backup quarterback spot, period.
Nick said to that point, I base it on Goff. And Shep, I'm sorry, I'll say this to my dying breath. I mean, look, it is imperative to protect every quarterback in the National Football League. There isn't one quarterback out there that says, yeah, I really like pressure. I'm a big fan of guys pressuring me when I go back in the pocket. Okay, but I also think, Shep, that there are some guys that handle pressure better than other quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And I don't include Jared Goff in that group. I just don't. I've seen him. If you look back to his time with the Rams, okay, when a lot of people, yours truly included, I've admitted this, I thought the guy was done. I openly admit it. It also happened to coincided where they had incredible upheaval with that offensive line. Okay. And there are some quarterbacks that can, again, not love it, but maybe perform a little bit better. When that guy is pressured, I don't think he's as good as other guys. When you give him time, he's a freaking surgeon. If he hasn't proven that to you the last couple of years, you're never going to have it proven to you. I mean, all you have to do is watch the games.
Another reason why they got to address the line. So therein lies part of it. I thought Jaden Daniels, and I looked at his numbers during going into the Lions game, he had the third best QBR against pressure. Detroit couldn't pressure him. They tried to, but they didn't pressure him enough. Philly pressured him. And I think he went 3 for 11 under Philly pressure and was sacked twice. So to your point, no quarterback really likes pressure. You got to get rid of it quickly, especially if you have a bad offensive line. Detroit's got a really good offensive line. It could be a little bit better. My hope is, and this is not a knock on Dan Skipper or anybody else, okay? But my hope is that they fortify that a little bit, knowing exactly what you just said about Jared Goff.
So Shep, I'm sorry I giggled for a second because Austin said, fear not, ASP and the 6'7", 16-year-old outfielder the Tigers found in the middle of the Caribbean will bring us back to the promised land. How many times?
Oh my God. I refuse.
I'm not going there, Shep. I'm not.
About some draft of a 16-year-old and you're paying him $3 million more than you've ever paid anybody else because Roberto Campos still hasn't made the major league. I'm so tired of that crap. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's beyond belief. I don't even want to get on the Tigers rant for crying out loud. You know, the door's back open for Houston with Bregman. Boston looks like they're closing in. Toronto's still interested. Meanwhile, Detroit has spent $15 million on Alex Cobb and $15 million on Gleyber Torres. Way to go. That's great stuff. But maybe Jack Flaherty come back. That's good.
Yeah, it's cute. Daz Cameron's got center field. Don't worry about that. That's another one of those prospects that Austin was
on the making. Let's show another highlight of his dad climbing the wall and making a catch. I wish we had Mike Cameron. Yeah. Holy crap, man.
Austin brings up something I know near and dear to your heart, of course, as the longtime voice of Michigan basketball.
Dylan Diegler was really good at Ohio State. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Hey, when it comes time to get yourself a house, whether you're buying or selling, you need the right agent. The agent that I recommend, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably
there she is.
There she is. You'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville, and she's expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house, and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. You make sure you contact the right agent. Who's that right agent? That young lady right there, Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Austin brings up a good point. Both local college basketball teams could make the Elite Eight. Both are having good seasons. And
one's having I would say it's better than a good season. I mean, I know Tom Izzo's never satisfied. Not many coaches ever are. He doesn't want to pump his team's tires too much. But I'll tell you this. When Tom Izzo says, I think we're pretty good, that tells you he thinks they're a lot better than pretty good. Okay? You win 12 in a row. You're undefeated in the Big Ten. You're 4-0 on the road in the Big Ten. You're 17-2 overall. You could easily be 18-1. You're on a roll. You're divvying things up. You push the pace. You rebound. You defend. That's a really good basketball team. Michigan got the crap kicked out of them at Purdue, and it's not like this is the Zach Edey-led Purdue team, although they were ranked 11th in the country for what that's worth. But they were absolutely blown out of the gym from the very get-go, and they struggled with Penn State tonight, beating them by 4 at home. Not a very good Penn State team. So I'm going to pump the brakes just a moment on Michigan on whether or not they could be an Elite Eight team. Doesn't mean I don't think they can make the NCAA. They definitely will. But Elite Eight, be careful there.
You know what? I will say this, though, and I'll be intrigued to see if you agree. I think Dusty May's ahead of the curve right now. I didn't expect this at all. I think
he's a really good coach. I thought it was a great hire. Look, I said this when both Michigan and Michigan State made key hires. I thought Jonathan Smith was a really good hire for Michigan State football, and I thought Dusty May was a really good hire for Michigan basketball. And I'm going to stick to that because I think both of them have done what I thought they would do so far in their first seasons. Dusty May but having Vlad Golden come over, getting Danny Wolf, it's still part of being coaching, right? Mm-hmm. Just because you're bringing guys up. And having the rotation that he has, I give him a ton of credit. I just don't know they're Elite Eight better. Here's what I would ask you, and I had this conversation with somebody over the weekend. Big Ten probably doesn't get enough credit in the college basketball landscape discussion. Everybody wants to fawn all over themselves over the SEC and Duke, and Duke's really good. But who are the best 8 teams in America? Because there's a lot of shifting going on. I don't think we necessarily know that right now. I just think Michigan State, and the rankings came out, they're number 7 in the country. They're fun to watch, and they're really good. We just don't see one guy dominating like, Duke may have, or like Tennessee may have. They spread the wealth really well, and they get a lot of guys involved.
I think the way it's happening, too, for a lot of Spartan fans, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm one of them. I think that's the thing that excites me. It's funny, Shep, because I think to a lot of people, right, wrong, or indifferent, Michigan State basketball has kind of turned into an old bit for a while.
Yeah,
I think that sounds crazy, but like honestly, it's like, okay, he's going to make this tough schedule. Michigan State's never going to beat the big boys, never going to happen. But golly gee, we'll talk about how hard we played, and we'll be ready come tournament time.
Yeah. We're peaking at the right time. We peak at the right time. Yeah.
It's always the right time. And when you don't make those runs, well, all of a sudden, a lot of people start saying, why did you play that schedule earlier? Because for years it paid off, and now it's not paying off. And so now when you couple that with having the type of look, I don't care what anybody says, 17-2 is 17-2. And
right.
The win streak is a win streak, especially when you dig a little deeper and you take a look at who they did it against. And I think that's what has people excited. Izzo is having fun. You can tell. I think we both know Tom Izzo a little bit, and you can tell when Tom Izzo's having fun. You legitimately can tell he's having fun. Turnovers and the 3-point shooting seem to be where Michigan State can improve. So
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. They're a better free throw shooting team now than they had been in the past. That's encouraging. Their defense and their rebounding are still staples. I love that. But you're right. Their 3-point shooting especially is a little troubling. But look, when you can work it the way they do, and you can push it the way they do, I'm not worried about that as much. Here's where I would worry about it. If they're jacking up 23 triples a game and they're hitting 6 of them, that's a problem.
Yep.
Let's hope that's not what they fall into. Move the ball, rotate properly, get the ball inside. When you get it inside and you're doubled, you kick it out. It's fundamental basketball. I think they're doing that right.
All right, Shep, one more thing before we get out of here. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. Rick and his staff at All About Catering will take care of you. They've done it for me. Sometimes I can't cook. Sometimes I have to shake hands and kiss babies. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. They did it for me. They did it for you. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com. Check out their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. So
right. On Thursday, they're going to announce the NBA All-Star reserves.
Oh,
do you think Cade Cunningham will be named?
Shep, absolutely. Do you know what it is? Honestly, it's funny. Like, I was being sarcastic. Okay, so wow, Sean being sarcastic. I think that Cade Cunningham is maybe getting more love outside of Detroit than he is in Detroit. It's funny hearing some of his opponents in particular talk about the growth that they've seen with this guy. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Shep, honestly.
I'd be stunned. Yeah. I look. Tonight, he started poorly. He was 3 for his first 12. It was bad. I mean, he was forcing things up, too. But overall, he has been a very steady performer. I worry, somebody just had written about the MSU turnovers. I worry about his turnovers a little bit. Like, he had close to a triple-double the other night, but he had 10 turnovers. And it was like, wow. He had half of Detroit's turnovers the other night, even though they won. That's a little bit of an issue for me. And people will tell me, well, he handles the basketball a lot. I don't care. I mean, Isaiah Thomas had the ball in his hands all the time. He wasn't coughing it up 10 times in a game,
exactly.
When he was playing at his peak. So that's the one area. But I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's an all-star for sure, and not just because Shaquille O'Neal says so. I think he's a I think he's been a lot of fun to watch, and you can see how his game has grown. Shows you how good of coaching can matter, folks. J.D. Bickerstaff has made a difference with this team in his coaching. Todd McClellan has made a difference in his coaching with the Red Wings. Dan Campbell made a difference in coaching the Lions.
100%.
So I'm not saying they're totally responsible for the wins, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to give them credit for a lot of the reason that a lot of these young players are getting better.
No doubt. It was great to see Ozzy over your shoulder, by the way. Tell Ozzy I said hello. Good cat, right?
You tell him yourself next time.
I'm talking to
return my text.
I'm talking to Shep, and I'm going to say hi right now. And by the way, son of a bitch, you owe Shep a text. How's that?
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe he'll listen to you.
Hey, always a pleasure, bud. We'll check you out.
Great to see you, man.
Don't get Sean going on turnovers again. Don't get me going on turnovers. I don't want anything to do with them. Todd, thank you as well. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you. God bless you. Bye-bye. Keep up alive.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.